The father placed a hidden camera in the room. What he discovered was heartbreaking.
Hello everyone, enjoy these relaxing moments while you watch.
James had just finished his long shift at the central bus station, a job he had stuck with for over 10 years since the day his wife, Laura, passed away in a car accident. Everything had changed completely after that shock, except for one thing, his love for his little daughter, Valerie. "Dad, I made bean soup. But it might be a little salty," Valerie called out from the kitchen, running in with a bright smile, her black hair flowing gently over her shoulders. She was only 10 years old, her eyes sparkling like stars, and she always tried to make her father smile, even if just a little. James smiled and walked over to pat her head. "As long as you made it, I'll eat it all. Even if it's as salty as the ocean." The father and daughter sat down to eat in a peaceful atmosphere. On the wall hung an old family photo, Laura holding baby Valerie, with James standing behind them, hugging them both. He often looked at it when he was the most tired, reminding himself that he still had Valerie to live for. "Are you doing well in school? Is your tutor tough?" James asked as he scooped up a spoonful of soup. Valerie paused for a moment, then quickly nodded. "Yeah, Ethan the tutor is really good. He's nice." James chuckled. "Nice? Sounds like my little girl really likes Mr. Ethan." "It's not like that, Dad. I just mean, he's easygoing," Valerie said, blushing, trying to hide a flicker of hesitation in her eyes. James didn't think much of it. He trusted Ethan, the private math tutor whom James had asked his close friend, Lucas, to recommend. Lucas was a teacher at Hillview High School, where James used to drive the school bus, and he always trusted that Lucas wouldn't recommend someone unreliable. The next day, as James was getting ready to leave for work, he suddenly noticed Valerie standing silently in her room, staring out the window. He gently called out, "Valerie, aren't you going to school?" Valerie turned around, her eyes wide, as if she'd been caught doing something wrong. I have a headache. Can I stay home today, Dad?" James was surprised. "You seemed fine. You were running around last night." "Yeah, but I felt dizzy this morning," she mumbled, avoiding his gaze. James walked over and placed his hand on her forehead. "No fever. You're hiding something from me, aren't you?" Valerie quickly stepped back. "No, there's nothing. I'm just tired." Her avoidance startled James. Normally, Valerie would hug him whenever he asked how she was. But now, she was pulling away like he was a stranger. On his way to work, James couldn't shake off that look in her eyes, a look filled with fear, guarded and distant. Something's not right, James thought. It can't be school stuff. Valerie's always been good at that. And I haven't yelled at her. Did someone do something to her? The next day, he tried asking Lucas while they had coffee at the corner cafe. "How's Ethan doing with the tutoring?" Lucas asked. "Well, okay. Valerie says he's easygoing," James replied, though something inside him suddenly felt off. Lucas nodded. "Ethan's talented. But, a bit reserved. Doesn't talk much." "What do you mean?" Lucas shrugged. "Nothing really. Just heard some parents complain that he's a little too intense with his students. A bit uncomfortable. But nothing concrete." James froze. "Do you think I should let my daughter keep learning with him?" Lucas was silent for a moment. "I can't say for sure. But if something feels off, don't hesitate." That sentence stuck with James all evening. When he got home, Valerie was sitting in the living room reading a book, but she flinched when she heard the door open. She quickly hid her hand in her jacket pocket, then gave a nervous smile. "You're home, Dad?" "Yeah." James walked over. "Valerie, show me your hand." "What?" "Why, Dad?" "Just show me your hand." Valerie hesitated, then slowly pulled out her left hand. On her wrist was a purple bruise, like it had been grabbed hard. What is this? James asked, his voice shaking. I bumped into my desk, Valerie quickly said, her voice flustered. Bumped into it? What kind of bump leaves a bruise like that? He almost shouted. Valerie lowered her head, tears spilling out. Please don't ask any more, Dad. Please don't ask. James pulled his daughter tightly into his arms. Who did this to you? You have to tell me. I swear I won't let anyone hurt you. But Valerie just trembled in his arms, saying nothing more. That night, James couldn't sleep. He sat silently by the window, watching the streetlights shine through the curtain. His mind was a storm. In his heart, a horrible feeling screamed louder and louder. I can't let this go. I can't. The next morning, James went to the small electronics shop owned by his old friend Paul, a Spaniard who specialized in installing home camera systems. Paul, I need your help. Paul raised an eyebrow. What's the emergency? You look pale as a ghost. I want to install a small camera in my daughter's room. The most discreet type you have. Paul hesitated. It's that serious? James nodded, eyes bloodshot. I can't sit still anymore. Something is very wrong. Paul pulled a tiny device from under the counter, no bigger than a thumb. This one works best on a bookshelf. Wide-angle lens, good audio. James took it. I'll pay you later. I need to install it now. I'm not charging you, Paul said, placing a hand on James's shoulder. I just hope you don't have to see something terrible. That night, James quietly installed the camera on Valerie's bookshelf while she was downstairs watching TV. He hid it behind a small wooden cat figurine that Valerie loved, making sure it couldn't be seen. His hands trembled as he typed the password into his computer and connected to the camera. Every image would now be recorded and saved automatically. From now on, he would know the truth. For 3 nights, nothing unusual happened. Valerie did her homework, wrote in her notebooks, and doodled simple drawings of flowers and leaves. But on the 4th evening, while James was working a late shift, his phone pinged with an alert, unusual activity in the room. James asked for a break and opened his laptop in the bus. He saw Valerie's door open. A man stepped inside, tall, wearing a white shirt. Ethan. Hey there, he smiled, closing the door behind him. Valerie sat curled up at her desk. You're early. I had some free time today. Aren't you happy to see me? He walked closer, placing his bag on the table. Valerie shrank back a little, her eyes showing clear fear. James froze. His heart pounded wildly. His hands gripped the edge of the laptop tightly. Ethan leaned in close to Valerie's ear. Don't be scared. As long as you behave, everything will be fine. James jumped to his feet. Ethan smiled, reaching out his hand toward Valerie's shoulder, and the video stopped. His laptop had died. James screamed into the night. He practically threw the laptop onto the table when he got home, his hands shaking as he plugged in the charger. He reopened the recording. His heart thudded like it was going to explode. The screen lit up. The footage resumed where it had stopped. Ethan was standing right next to Valerie, his hand on her shoulder. He leaned his head in, whispering something. You know you're really special, don't you, Valerie? His voice was soft, chilling. Valerie didn't answer. She stared down at the floor, her hands clenched tightly together. James gritted his teeth, eyes wide. Say something, baby, push him away, he whispered, slamming his fist on the table. Ethan leaned down farther, stroking Valerie's hair. Don't worry. I won't hurt you, if you behave. Don't do that, Valerie whispered, her voice trembling. Shoo, just a little bit, he whispered, leaning in closer. James roared. He shot up from his chair, kicking it away violently. His entire body shook with fury. You sick bastard. He was about to run out of the house immediately, but stopped himself. His hand clenched into a fist, then slowly loosened. No. He couldn't act stupid. He couldn't do anything that would hurt his daughter more. He picked up the phone and dialed the police. Hello, I need to report a case of child abuse. I have video evidence. Please send someone immediately. The address is. We'll dispatch officers within 30 minutes, a woman's voice replied. James nodded, gripping the phone tightly. Don't worry, Valerie. I won't let you be near him for one more minute. 20 minutes later, the doorbell rang. James opened the door. A plainclothes officer, named Andrew, showed his badge. Are you James Morales? Yes. Come in. In the living room, James played the video. Andrew watched closely, his expression gradually hardening. When the video ended, he nodded. We're going to move in to arrest Ethan. But first, we need you to stay calm. Let us handle it. You think I can stay calm? James growled. That man hurt my daughter. Every day I let him into my house was another knife to the heart. I understand. But if you attack him, you'll become the criminal. Let the law do its job. James clenched his fists. I'll try. But don't let him get away. Andrew nodded, then pulled out his phone to call his superior. After a few minutes of discussion, he said, we're requesting an emergency warrant. But we'll need you to keep Ethan at the house tonight if he shows up. Keep him? Yes. Try to keep him talking, or doing something, so we have time to move in. James nodded, biting his lip. I can do that. That evening, right at 7 o'clock, the doorbell rang. James opened the door to see Ethan standing there with his bag. Hey James. Is Valerie home? James swallowed his rage, keeping his face neutral. Yeah. Come in. Ethan stepped inside, looking around. Where is she? In her room. But I want to have a word with you first. James closed the door and locked it. Ethan frowned. What's going on? It's about what you did, James said, each word sharp as a blade. Ethan gave a nervous laugh. I don't know what you mean. You don't? James stepped closer. Then let me remind you, touching my daughter's hair, whispering in her ear, pressing her up against her desk. You think I don't know? Ethan stepped back. I think you misunderstood. I'm a teacher, a teacher who puts his hands on a student like that. James roared, punching him hard in the face. Ethan fell to the ground, holding his face. Are you insane? I'll sue you for assault. Go ahead. James shouted, kicking him in the chest, sending him sprawling across the floor. You think I'm gonna let you walk away from this? Valerie ran down the stairs in a panic. Dad! Stop! Dad! James had his fist raised, ready to strike again, but he froze. He turned to look at his daughter. She was trembling, tears streaming down her face. Dad, please stop, you're scaring me. James looked into those eyes. 1 second, then 2, it felt like the whole world paused. He lowered his hand and stepped back, panting heavily. Sweetheart. I'm sorry. I just wanted to protect you. Valerie stepped forward and hugged him. I know, but please don't become someone bad. The door burst open. Police officers stormed in, guns drawn and aimed at Ethan. Freeze. Don't move. Andrew shouted. Ethan was handcuffed on the spot. I was assaulted. I'm innocent. I'll sue all of you. Andrew replied coldly, you can sue after we finish reviewing the footage. For now, you're coming with us. James held his daughter tightly. Valerie rested her head against his chest, still shaking. That night, James sat in the living room, holding his head. Paul came by, bringing hot coffee. "I heard what happened, you okay?" Paul asked, setting the cup on the table. "I wanted to kill him. Right then and there. If Valerie hadn't stopped me, I might have become a murderer." Paul was silent. After a while, he said, "You did the right thing. You protected your daughter without losing yourself." James sighed. "But Valerie, she'll never be the same again." Paul gently patted his shoulder. "But she still has you. That's what matters most." Valerie stood at the top of the stairs, quietly listening to the conversation. Tears rolled down her cheeks, but this time, not from fear, because she knew she still had someone to lean on. The next morning, James sat at the dining table, a cup of cold coffee in front of him. Valerie sat across from him, eyes vacant, hands gripping a mug of warm milk. Neither of them said a word. The silence lingered until Valerie finally spoke, her voice barely louder than a whisper. "Dad, will Mr. Ethan go to jail?" James looked up, into his daughter's dark eyes. "I'm not sure. But I handed over the evidence. The police will handle it." I don't want to go to court," Valerie said softly, her hands slightly trembling. "I understand," he said gently. "No one's going to force you to do anything that scares you. But if someday, you're ready, your voice will matter a lot." Valerie gave a slight nod. "I just want to forget everything." At that moment, James's phone rang. It was Andrew. "Hello." "Hi, Mr. James. Just a quick update, Ethan is currently in custody. But he hasn't confessed. He hired a lawyer and claims the video doesn't clearly prove anything." James frowned. "Doesn't prove anything?" "He clearly touched her. That's how we see it. But his lawyer argues there's no explicit act of abuse. They're trying to stall the investigation." James clenched his fist. "What more proof do they need? It would help if we had more footage. Or testimony. Ideally, evidence showing repeated behavior over multiple days," Andrew explained. "You mean, he might have done this before?" "We suspect so. And if that's the case, the camera might have recorded it. Could you check your storage device?" James sighed. "I'll look." After hanging up, James went to his study and booted up his computer. He connected the hard drive that Paul had helped install, containing all the video from the past 10 days. Valerie stood at the doorway, her voice hesitant. "Dad, don't watch it." "I have to," he said gently. "I need to protect you." Valerie quietly nodded and stepped away, as if afraid to face whatever might come up on that screen. James fast-forwarded through the footage. Some days were uneventful. But then, in a clip from 3 days ago, Ethan appeared again. On screen, Valerie was sitting and writing. Ethan walked into the room, said something with a smile, then approached her. "You made a mistake here," he said, holding her notebook but placing it on her thigh. I'll fix it," Valerie mumbled. "No need to fix it. Let me show you." He leaned in close, his lips nearly touching her ear. James gritted his teeth and fast-forwarded again. In another clip, Ethan stood behind Valerie, placing his hand on her shoulder, giving it a light squeeze. "Relax, you're always so tense," he said. "Please don't touch me anymore," Valerie pleaded, her voice tiny. "Shoo, don't let anyone hear. You know, this is our little secret." James slammed his fist on the desk. "You sick bastard." Immediately, he copied the entire clip onto a USB drive and texted Andrew, "More footage. Clear and repeated. I'll send it now." Just minutes later, Andrew replied, "Good. Meet me at the station. We need the original files." At the police station, James handed Andrew the USB along with the hard drive. The officer immediately began reviewing the footage. After watching several clips, he nodded. Now it's going to be harder for his lawyer to spin this. There's repeated touching, inappropriate behavior, and psychological coercion. James exhaled. I just want my daughter to be able to live in peace. Andrew looked at him and said slowly, I know this isn't easy to hear, but we'll also need to talk to Valerie. Not today but sometime in the next few days. We have a female investigator named Sarah, she's really good with kids. She'll come talk to your daughter. James nodded. Just be gentle. She's been through enough. We'll be careful. That night, when James got home, he heard soft crying coming from Valerie's room. He knocked gently. Valerie? Dad. I don't want to talk to anyone. You don't have to. I just want to sit with you, okay? She didn't respond. James sat beside her bed and quietly took her hand. After a moment, Valerie asked, Dad, do you hate me? He was stunned. Why would you say that? Because, if I hadn't let him, if I'd told you sooner. Valerie, James interrupted, looking into her eyes. You didn't do anything wrong. He's the one who did wrong. You're just a child. None of this is your fault. Valerie reached for him and burst into tears. I'm scared. I'm scared he'll come back. James held her tightly. No one is ever going to scare you again. No one, Valerie. I promise. 2 days later, the female investigator, Sarah, originally from San Antonio, came to the house. She was tall, with reddish-brown hair, and spoke in a gentle voice. Hello, I'm Sarah Johnson. I'm here to talk with Valerie. If she's okay with it. James nodded. She knows. But I'm not sure she's ready. Sarah sat down next to Valerie in the living room. You know, I was once a scared little girl too. But then I learned how to turn that fear into strength. Valerie looked at Sarah, her eyes uncertain. How did you do that? Sarah smiled. I started by telling everything. Not to strangers. But to someone I trusted. Valerie turned to look at James. Dad, if I tell, will you still love me? James choked up. I will love you forever. Nothing will ever change that. Valerie gave a small nod. She turned back to Sarah and whispered, I'm ready. That night, after Sarah had left, James sat by the window, gazing at the sparkling city lights. Valerie was fast asleep, hugging her old teddy bear. Paul called. I heard the news. Valerie talked, didn't she? Yeah. Thank you so much, Paul. James, Paul said softly, maybe you don't know, but my wife was also once the victim of a sick teacher. It took her years to recover. But she did. Because someone stood by her. James closed his eyes. I won't leave Valerie. No matter what it costs. The morning after the session with investigator Sarah, James sat blankly in the kitchen, a cold cup of coffee in front of him. Valerie was still asleep. She had cried herself to exhaustion the night before. Even though Sarah had been gentle and the conversation had gone well, James knew, every word Valerie spoke was like a wound tearing through her heart. The ringing phone pulled him out of his thoughts. It was Andrew. Hello. Hi, Mr. James. I just had a meeting with the prosecutor. They're requesting additional footage, clearer if possible, especially with audio. They need Valerie's reactions to Ethan's approach clearly documented. James sighed. I'll sort through them. But, watching those clips again. I don't know if I can handle it. I understand. But you're the only one with full access to the data. And believe me, what you're doing might be the key to a conviction. After the call, James sat at his desk and powered up the computer. The camera system's hard drive appeared. He took a deep breath and opened the video folder. His hands shook as he opened the clip from 3 afternoons ago. That time, he hadn't seen the full recording. Everything had been cut short when his laptop died. He hit play. On the screen, Valerie sat at her desk, writing, gripping her pen tightly. Ethan stood behind her, silently watching. "You know you're really smart, don't you?" His voice came, gentle but haunting. I'm just doing math," Valerie replied softly. "No. You're special. Anyone can do math. But only you make me want to come here every day." He leaned down, placing his hand on Valerie's shoulder. "Please don't touch me," she said quietly, almost whispering. "You're tense again," he said, gently squeezing her shoulder. "Don't be scared. Everything's going to be okay. I care about you." Valerie began to cry. She tried to scoot her chair away, but Ethan held the back of the chair and pulled it in. James shot up from his seat. "You son of a bitch. Please, sir, don't, my dad will be mad, please." Valerie's voice came, choked and desperate, every word cutting into James's heart. "Your dad doesn't know anything. This is our secret. If you tell, no one will believe you. Got it?" Valerie shook her head over and over. "Please don't. I won't tell, please stop." He leaned in closer, one arm wrapping around her back. She panicked, bolting from the chair and running to the corner of the room. "Stop!" James's voice roared like a wild beast. He slammed his fist on the desk, shattering the glass cup on the floor. Valerie heard the noise from the next room and came running in. "Dad? What happened?" James quickly turned the screen off. "Nothing, it's nothing. I just dropped something." "You were watching those videos again, weren't you?" Valerie whispered. James didn't answer. He just looked at his daughter, throat tight with emotion. Valerie stepped forward and held his hand. "Don't watch them anymore, it hurts too much." He gripped her hand tightly. "I'm sorry, but I have to bring him to justice. You endured it. Now it's my turn." Valerie nodded lightly, then returned to her room. James slumped into his chair, covering his face with his hands. His whole body felt drained. He had never known his heart could hurt this much. He picked up his phone and called Paul. "Paul. I can't take this anymore." "Stay calm, James. Where are you?" "At home. I just watched another video, he did something horrible to Valerie." "Want me to come over?" James nodded, even though Paul couldn't see him. "Yeah. Please come." 15 minutes later, Paul arrived with a bag of sandwiches and a bottle of red wine. "I don't want to drink," James shook his head. "It's not for drinking. It's to throw at the wall if you need to." James let out a bitter laugh. "I've imagined strangling him a dozen times. In my head, I've killed him already." Paul sat down and sighed. "I get it. But you're still here. With Valerie. Not in prison. Not with blood on your hands. The law, do you think it'll be enough to punish him?" Paul was silent for a moment. "There's still a long road ahead. His lawyer will do everything to drag the case out. But if you hold on to the evidence, if Valerie has the courage, he won't get away." James nodded and wiped his face with a cloth. "I need to be stronger. I won't let her suffer for even one more second." Just then, James's phone pinged with a new email. He opened it. It was from Andrew. Subject: Extracted voice clips from video, potential key evidence. James read the message. The police had isolated the audio from the video, capturing key phrases clearly. "Your dad won't know anything. If you tell, no one will believe you. This is our secret." Paul read over his shoulder. "Those lines alone are enough to convict him." James muttered, "I hope the court sees it that way." The next morning, James took Valerie to meet a psychologist, Dr. Rose Evans, originally from Santa Fe, with experience working with abused children. Her office was cozy, with soft blue walls and shelves full of toys. James waited outside, anxiety burning inside him. Every minute felt like an hour. About an hour later, Valerie came out, her eyes a little red but visibly more relaxed. "Are you okay?" James stood up immediately. Valerie nodded. "Dr. Rose is really nice. She didn't ask anything scary. She just told stories, and listened to mine. Would you like to go back?" "I think, yes." James gave a faint smile. "That's good." Rose stepped out and shook James's hand. "Valerie is very brave. I'll be writing a psychological support report for her. It could be helpful in court." James bowed his head. "Thank you. Truly." On the way home, Valerie leaned her head on James's shoulder and whispered, "Dad, don't watch those videos anymore, let the police handle it. I promise. I won't hurt myself anymore." Valerie smiled a faint, fragile smile. But at least it was real. James sat in the car, his hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly they turned white. The red light ahead turned green, but he didn't move. In his mind, images flashed: Ethan's twisted smirk, his hand on Valerie's shoulder, his vile whispering. And his daughter's terrified eyes. A car horn blared behind him. James snapped out of it and hit the gas, the car lurching forward. But inside, his heart was still screaming. "Why didn't I kill you that night?" he muttered through clenched teeth. "I had the chance." His phone buzzed. It was Paul. "Where are you?" Paul asked. "In the car. Don't do anything stupid. I've got a bad feeling." "Thanks, but I'm fine," James replied, trying to keep his voice steady. "I'm serious. If you're thinking about taking justice into your own hands." "Paul, if it was your wife, or your daughter, what would you do?" Paul went silent for a long moment. "I'd want to kill him. But I'd also know I can't. Because if I do, I'm no longer a father, or a husband. I'm a murderer. And my family loses me forever." James didn't answer. He ended the call and tossed the phone onto the passenger seat. That night, after Valerie had gone to sleep, James sat alone in the living room, the dim light casting deep lines across his worried face. On the table were copies of all the video clips, documents related to the case, and Dr. Rose's report. James opened a bottle of old wine, the one he'd saved from Laura's birthday. He poured a small glass, took a sip, and set it down. "Honey, if you were still alive, you'd know what to do," he whispered, gazing at Laura's photo on the shelf. "All I feel is rage, rage so strong I can't even breathe." The doorbell rang. James stood up, surprised. It was past 10 p.m. Who could be visiting now? He opened the door to see Lucas, his friend from the school where Ethan worked, standing with a serious expression. "Lucas? What are you doing here this late? I heard some teachers talking. Someone said Ethan is planning to file a countersuit." "What?" "He's saying you assaulted him. He's got photos of his bruised face and claims there's no evidence of any wrongdoing. He's flipping the whole situation," Lucas said. James punched the wall. "That bastard. He's trying to turn everything around." "Yes. But I didn't come here just to tell you that. I came to help you," Lucas said firmly. "I have a recording. A while back, I overheard Ethan talking on the phone in the teacher's lounge. He sounded suspicious. I recorded it without him knowing because something felt off." "A recording of what?" Lucas took out his phone and played an audio file. "Kids are easier to handle. You just have to be a little clever and they'll all fall in line. Which of them dares to say anything? Their parents are working all the time. Who really knows what happens behind a closed door?" Ethan's voice came through, clear as day. James froze. "Can this be used as evidence?" "If the prosecutor accepts it, yes. But it has to go through the proper procedure. I'll hand it over to the police. James patted his friend's shoulder. Thank you. Thank you so much. Lucas nodded. Stay strong, James. You're heading into the toughest part now. The next day, at the police headquarters, James sat with Andrew and prosecutor Carla Mitchell. Carla was a sharp-eyed, steel-voiced middle-aged woman. We've received the recording from Mr. Lucas, Carla said. And we're in the process of verifying its admissibility. If accepted, it could be a powerful supplemental piece of evidence. Andrew added, however, Ethan's attorney is requesting a psychological evaluation of Valerie. They're suggesting she may be influenced by imagination. James shot to his feet. Influenced? Imagination? I have video, audio, my daughter's reactions. What more do they want? Carla raised her hand to calm him. Mr. James, I understand. But legally, they're within their rights to request this. We can deny it if we determine it's unnecessary. James breathed heavily. He's trying to drag Valerie through the mud, after already hurting her. That's exactly why we need you to stay calm. If you lose control, they'll use that against you. James looked directly into Carla's eyes. I'll do whatever it takes, as long as my daughter stays safe. Carla nodded. Then listen to me. We need you to maintain the image of a stable, protective father. Don't lose your temper in public. Don't post angry messages online. Don't make noise. You want me to stay quiet while he twists the truth? James said loudly. No. I want you to fight smart. Do you want to win? James clenched his fists, then nodded. I do. I'll do what you say. That evening, while tidying up Valerie's room, James found a small notebook tucked between her pillow and the headboard. He was about to put it back when he saw a note on the cover. Dad, please don't be mad when you read this. He opened it and his heart sank. The pages were scribbled in shaky handwriting, like desperate whispers. Today, the teacher touched my shoulder again. I didn't dare scream. I was scared you'd be upset. I want to tell someone, but I'm scared you'll hit him, then you'll be taken away. He said no one would believe me if I told. But I believe in Dad. I want to say it. I just don't know how. James held the notebook tightly as tears spilled down his face. Valerie's voice came from the doorway. Dad, are you reading my notebook? He turned around, flustered. I'm sorry, sweetie. I was just cleaning up. It's okay, she said, walking in. I wrote it for you. I just couldn't bring myself to give it to you. James dropped to his knees and hugged his daughter tightly. I'm so sorry. I should have stopped this sooner. Valerie whispered, but you believed me, Dad. That's enough. A week after submitting the additional evidence to Prosecutor Carla, James received a message from Andrew. Ethan has been temporarily released on bail. He will be monitored but not detained until the trial. James stared at his phone, heart pounding. No way. He immediately called back. What did you just say? Bail? Andrew sighed on the line. The prosecutor opposed it, but the judge granted bail due to the lack of formal charges and because he has legal representation. He'll be monitored and is barred from contacting the victim. So what? He's still out there. Near Valerie. I understand how you feel, James. But we're building the formal charges now. You need to stay calm. One more mistake from him and it's over. James screamed, and what if that mistake is against my daughter? We'll increase surveillance. I swear. James hung up and slammed the phone onto the table. Valerie walked into the living room, saw the look on her father's face, and asked, "What's wrong, Dad?" He looked at her, trying to suppress his rage. Nothing. I'm just a little tired. Valerie frowned. Don't keep hiding things. I'm not a little kid anymore. James sat down and sighed. Ethan, he's been released for now. Valerie fell silent. Her face went pale. Is he going to come here? No. No, sweetheart. I won't let that happen. But what if he hangs around the school, or our house? I've already asked the police for tighter surveillance. And I'm not going to work. I'll be home with you, always. Valerie hugged him tightly and whispered, I never want to see him again. I've never been so scared of anyone in my life. The next morning, James took Valerie to see Dr. Rose, as usual. But this time, he waited in the car, his mind a storm. An hour later, Rose came out and tapped on the car window. Hello, Mr. James. May I speak with you for a moment? Yes, doctor. Valerie is slowly opening up more. But she's still haunted by Ethan's presence. The news of his release has deeply unsettled her. I think we should consider transferring her to another school. Transfer schools. James frowned. Just temporarily, until the trial is over. A new environment might help her not feel so watched. James thought for a moment. I'll consider it. But I want to keep her close. I don't want to be away from her for even a day. Rose nodded. I understand. And I respect that. That afternoon, James was sitting down reviewing case documents when he heard a car horn outside. He went out and saw a tall man stepping out of a black car. None other than Ethan. James rushed to the gate. What the hell are you doing here? Ethan smiled smugly. I'm allowed to go wherever I want. This is a public neighborhood. This is in front of my house. You're not welcome here. I'm not breaking any rules, he shrugged. Just happened to be passing by. Visiting the old neighborhood. Get out of here before I call the police. Ethan stared him down. If you lose your temper, I can add more charges to your file, you know. Remember, you already hit me once. James lunged forward, fists clenched, nearly ready to strike again. But just then, Paul's voice shouted from his motorbike nearby, James. Stop. Paul skidded to a halt, jumped off the bike, and rushed over. Don't give him the excuse. Ethan stepped back, smirking. You better learn to control yourself, Mr. James. He turned, got into his car, and drove off. James stood there, breathing heavily, his whole body trembling. Paul grabbed his shoulder. I told you. He's going to provoke you. He wants you to snap so he can use it against you. James gritted out each word, if he comes back. I can't guarantee I'll be able to hold myself back. You have to. For Valerie. That night, after Valerie had gone to sleep, James called Andrew. Andrew. I just saw Ethan standing in front of my house. Do you have any evidence? No. But Paul was here. He saw everything. Understood. I'll put it in the report. If he continues, we'll file for a restraining order. It's too slow, you know that. I feel like my daughter's living on top of a ticking bomb. Mr. James, please trust me. One more mistake and he's done. Just keep Valerie safe. We're finalizing the court schedule. 1 week later. James was helping Valerie rearrange her bookshelf when the doorbell rang. He opened the door. It was the mailman. Letter from the court, the man said. James signed and opened the envelope. An official summons. The first court hearing was scheduled for the following Monday. Valerie peeked from behind and asked softly, Dad, what is it? We're going to court next week. Valerie went quiet. After a moment, she asked, Dad, what if I'm not strong enough to speak? I won't force you. But if you can just face the truth, you're already the strongest person I know. Valerie held his hand. I'll try. For you, Dad. That night, James called Dr. Rose and asked, "Do you think Valerie is ready to testify?" Psychologically, she's not entirely stable. But with the proper legal support, like being placed in a separate room, shielded from direct contact with the defendant, I believe she can speak. James sighed. "I'm just afraid she'll break down on the stand. No one expects Valerie to be perfect. She just needs to be herself. The truth is on her side." 3 days before the trial, James received an anonymous letter. No sender name. The handwriting was messy. "If you don't want your daughter to suffer more, then don't go to court. We have ways to make everything disappear for good." James clenched the letter in his fist and immediately called Andrew. "I just received a threat. Keep it. Don't do anything else. We'll come pick it up right away and test it for fingerprints." "Who do you think it is?" "Most likely someone from Ethan's side. But we'll confirm. And you do not tell Valerie anything about this." James nodded. "I won't let anyone lay a finger on her." That night, when all was quiet, James stood by the window, watching the streetlights glow over Laura's face in the old photo. "I promise you. I won't let anyone hurt our daughter again. No matter what it takes." The city courthouse opened at 8 a.m. James wore his old suit and held Valerie's hand tightly as they walked into the large lobby. They were directed to a private waiting room for victims. Across the hallway, Ethan arrived with 2 lawyers, head held high, a cold smile on his lips. Valerie saw him and immediately turned her face away. She gripped her father's hand tightly and whispered, "Dad. I don't want to see his face." "It's okay. You don't have to. I'm right here." James gently wrapped his arm around her shoulders. Sarah, the female investigator who had previously spoken with Valerie, entered the room, carrying a stack of documents. "Good morning, James. Valerie, are you ready?" Valerie nodded slightly, though her eyes still showed fear. "As long as I don't have to be in the same room as him." "You won't. You'll be in a private room with a screen. You'll only talk to the judge and the prosecutor, okay?" Sarah smiled reassuringly. James asked, "Can I go in with her?" Sarah shook her head. "By regulation, parents aren't allowed during official testimony. But you can see her right after." Valerie hugged James quickly, then followed Sarah inside. The door closed behind her. The courtroom lights brightened. The elderly judge banged the gavel and announced the start of the preliminary hearing. James sat in the audience seats, with Paul and Lucas beside him. They had both come early to show their support. Prosecutor Carla Mitchell stood. "Your Honor, we present video evidence, audio recordings, and the testimony of the minor victim, Valerie Morales, concerning emotional and physical abuse by the defendant, Ethan Harris. We request that the court consider all submitted materials." Ethan's attorney, a man named Bennett, stood as well. "Your Honor, my client denies all accusations. We argue that the videos may have been edited, and the child's testimony could have been influenced by suggestion or imagination. My client is a respected teacher with no prior record." James clenched his fists in anger. Lucas whispered, "They're playing the usual game. Making the victim out to be a liar." Paul growled, "We have video. We have audio. We have Valerie's diary. He's not getting away." Carla called the first witness, Dr. Rose. "Your Honor, I'm the psychologist treating Valerie. Through our sessions, I've confirmed that she exhibits symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder. Her descriptions align with repeated abuse. There is no indication of fabrication or external influence." Attorney Bennett interjected, "Are you certain this isn't a result of internet exposure or trauma from media content?" "She doesn't use social media, and the details she shared are too specific and personal to be invented," Rose replied firmly. Next was Lucas, James's close friend and the one who provided the audio recording. "I worked with Ethan. One day, I overheard him on the phone in the teacher's lounge, saying some very disturbing things. I recorded it. After learning what happened to Valerie, I turned the recording over to the police. The defense lawyer challenged, "Mr. Lucas, why didn't you report it immediately? Do you have a personal bias against my client?" Lucas answered, eyes steady, "At the time, it was just a suspicion. But after what happened, I couldn't stay silent. The only bias I have is against people who hurt students." The judge nodded. Noted. After a brief recess, it was time to present the video footage from the hidden camera. The room dimmed, and the large screen displayed Valerie in her bedroom as Ethan entered. Every word, every shoulder touch, every sickeningly sweet phrase echoed through the silent courtroom. "Don't tell anyone. No one will believe you. Just be good." On the screen, Valerie tried to pull away, eyes filled with tears, whispering, "Dad will be mad. He won't forgive you." In the gallery, James lowered his head, hands digging into his knees. Paul placed a firm hand on his shoulder. The video ended with Valerie crying uncontrollably. The courtroom remained completely silent. Even the skeptics had nothing to say. The judge sighed. The court acknowledges the video as valid evidence. Then it was Valerie's turn to testify via video link from the adjacent room. "Valerie, can you tell the court what happened?" Carla asked gently. Valerie sat in front of the screen, holding a small stuffed bear. Her voice trembled. "Mr. Ethan, he came to my house to tutor me, but he kept touching my shoulders, my arms." "Did he say anything to you?" "He said, not to tell anyone, that no one would believe me. He said if I told, he'd disappear, but my dad would go to jail." "Did he threaten you?" Valerie nodded. "He said if I was good, no one would get hurt." I was scared. Carla turned to the judge. "Your Honor, we have nothing further. We ask the court to consider this as psychological coercion, abuse of authority as a teacher, and the exploitation of a minor." Attorney Bennett stood to object, but the judge raised his hand. "The child is a victim. Today's hearing is preliminary. Direct cross-examination from the defense will not be permitted." The hearing ended close to 4 p.m. James walked out of the courtroom, his body aching with exhaustion. Valerie ran up and hugged him. "Dad." I was able to speak. James held her tight. "You were so brave, sweetheart." Sarah stepped forward, placing a hand on James's shoulder. "You both are incredibly strong. And I believe justice will come." A week later, James received a second court summons. The official trial would take place in 20 days. At the same time, the court video began circulating on social media, along with messages of support for Valerie. A local news outlet published a headline, "Respected teacher accused of student abuse, clear video evidence." James received hundreds of messages of support, including from parents who had previously hired Ethan as a tutor. One mother named Angela wrote, "I used to see my child anxious every time they had lessons with Ethan, but I didn't know why. Now I understand. Thank you for speaking up." James forwarded this information to Carla. She replied, "This is great. Potential witnesses. I'll follow up." Still, Valerie lived in fear. She rarely went outside and often asked, "Dad, is he coming back?" James always answered, "No. I won't let him come near you." Outwardly, he stayed strong, but when alone, James often fell into silence. Inside, the anger hadn't gone away. Even though Ethan's mask had been torn off, even though public opinion had sided with Valerie, James felt it still wasn't enough, not enough to erase the pain his daughter had endured. One evening, Paul called. "I heard the court might allow additional charges if more victims come forward." "Yeah." Carla said she's reviewing new reports from parents who've contacted her. "Hope he pays double." "Hope so," James said quietly, eyes on Valerie sleeping in her room. She was curled up, hugging her stuffed bear, her face more peaceful than before but not completely at ease. James closed his eyes and silently vowed. I won't let justice miss a single second. I'll see this through to the end. One sunny morning, James received a call from prosecutor Carla Mitchell. He had just poured milk for Valerie when the phone rang. Valerie sat beside him, holding a sandwich, watching her father's face. Mr. James, I've got good news, Carla said quickly. James froze mid-pour, his heart pounding. What is it? The panel of judges has reviewed all the evidence, Valerie's testimony, and the new witnesses. The next hearing will be the final one. And, the prosecution will request the maximum sentence, 18 years in prison. James gripped the phone. Thank you so much. It's not over yet. But this is the final step. We'll protect Valerie all the way. After the call, James returned to the table. Valerie looked up. Dad, what's going on? James smiled for the first time in a long while. We're about to win, sweetheart. 3 days later, at the city courthouse, the closed trial began with a limited number of attendees. James sat in the front row, beside Paul and Lucas. Valerie stayed in a separate room, connected via video as before. Carla stood, her voice firm. Your Honor, the defendant Ethan Harris abused his position as a teacher to approach and psychologically harm a 12-year-old student. He repeatedly initiated physical contact, issued threats, and manipulated the victim. With video evidence, audio recordings, and multiple testimonies, we request the harshest sentence permitted under Article 183 of the Criminal Code. Attorney Bennett responded weakly, my client has no prior record. All contact lacked clear coercion. James scoffed. No coercion. He threatened her every time she cried. The judge looked at Ethan. Defendant, do you have anything to say before deliberation? Ethan stood. I only wanted to help my students. I never meant to do anything wrong. If Valerie misunderstood something, I'm sorry. Paul muttered, you bastard. Carla cut him off quickly. And these are the exact words the defendant spoke to the victim, if you tell, no one will believe you. This is our secret. Your dad will be arrested if you don't behave. Is that how you educate children? Ethan hung his head. Carla concluded, the defendant is a manipulator, not a teacher. He is a threat. A danger. The judge banged the gavel. Court will recess for 1 hour before sentencing. James stepped into the hallway, his thoughts in turmoil. Valerie sat in the adjacent room, Sarah by her side. Carla approached James. You did great. No. Valerie's the one who did great. She endured it all. She's the reason we do this job, Carla said with a smile. 1 hour later. The judge returned to the bench. The court has reviewed all evidence, testimony, witnesses, and psychological assessments. The defendant, Ethan Harris, is hereby sentenced to 18 years in prison, with no parole for the first 12 years. The air seemed to freeze for a moment. James stood. In the adjacent room, Valerie burst into tears. Sarah held her tightly. Attorney Bennett turned to Ethan, his face had gone completely pale. The judge continued, furthermore, the defendant is prohibited from contact with any minors after release and is required to pay restitution for emotional damages to the victim. James looked to Lucas and Paul. The three of them gripped hands tightly. Paul smiled, eyes brimming with tears. Finally. Bennett remained silent. Ethan was handcuffed on the spot, his head bowed. Valerie emerged from the side room and saw the scene. She paused for a moment, then ran to James and hugged him tightly. Dad, he won't be able to hurt anyone anymore, right? Never again, James said firmly. He can't hurt anyone anymore. 1 week later, at Dr. Rose's office, Valerie sat reading a children's book. James waited out in the hallway. After the session, Rose stepped out and smiled. Valerie is recovering very well. She still needs time, but today was the first session where she smiled a real smile the whole time. James exhaled in relief. Thank you, doctor. Thank you for everything. Rose nodded. She's the strong one. But you helped her hold on to that strength. Valerie ran out, holding up a drawing. Dad. I drew us, she said, showing a colorful picture of two people holding hands in a park. James looked at it, deeply moved. It's beautiful. Looks just like us. Valerie smiled. Can we go to the park tomorrow, Dad? It's been so long. Tomorrow for sure. I promise. The next morning, James and Valerie walked hand in hand through the Central Park. The leaves drifted gently to the ground, the sky was bright and clear. Valerie skipped along, still holding her dad's hand. Dad, I want ice cream. Me too. James laughed. They bought 2 vanilla cones. As she ate, Valerie said, Dad, did you know? I used to think I'd never smile again. James paused, his eyes softening. But now I know, things aren't always bad. If you have someone who truly loves you, then you'll be okay. James hugged his daughter tightly. You never have to worry again. I'll always be here. Valerie smiled, then looked up at the sky. Mom is probably watching us too, right? James looked up. Sunlight streamed through the leaves. Yes. Your mom is always watching over us. Valerie nodded. Then we have to live really happily, so she won't worry. That night, James opened his laptop. On the screen were hundreds of comments on the news article about the trial. Wishing Valerie a full recovery. Truly admire this father. Ethan should have been punished long ago. A message from Angela popped up. If I had been as brave as you, I might have protected my daughter in time. Thank you. James typed back. Everyone gets a second chance. Take it for your daughter. Near midnight, Valerie peeked into James's room. Dad. I can't sleep. Nightmare again? No. I just want to lie next to you for a bit. James lifted the blanket and made room. Come here. Just like when you were little. Valerie lay down, resting her head on his chest. You know, Dad, no matter what happened, I still feel lucky. Because I have you. James gently patted her back. And I have you. In the quiet bedroom, only the soft sound of breathing and the gentle rain outside the window remained. For the first time in many months, James drifted into a peaceful sleep. A month after the trial concluded, the atmosphere in James and Valerie's home had changed. The heavy mornings that had haunted them for so long were gradually replaced by soft laughter, lively conversations, and moments of true peace. It was Saturday. James was arranging flowers in a small glass vase on the dining table when Valerie ran downstairs, her hair tied up high, wearing a white t-shirt with a cat print. Dad! I did it, she shouted, waving a paper stamped in red. James rushed over. What's this? Acceptance letter. The school just sent confirmation today. I'm going back to school next week. James's eyes widened. Really? You're ready? Valerie nodded seriously. I talked to Dr. Rose. She asked if I wanted to go back to school. I said yes. James hugged her tight. You're amazing. I'm so proud of you. Valerie smiled, though her eyes flickered with hesitation. I'm still a little scared. I understand. But you're not going alone. I'll walk you to the gate. Every single day. Then I feel safe, she whispered. That afternoon, James and Valerie went shopping for school supplies. At the small bookstore on the corner, Valerie picked out pens, notebooks, and name labels. A curly-haired girl standing nearby turned to her. "What grade are you in?" Valerie hesitated. I'm going into 5th. "Oh, same as me. I'm Lily." "What's your name?" "Valerie." Lily smiled. "Do you go to Hillview High School?" Valerie looked at James. He nodded, smiling encouragingly. "No. I'm going to San Mateo. That school's near my house too. Maybe we'll be in the same class." Lily said excitedly. Valerie nodded softly. "I hope so." After saying goodbye to Lily, Valerie sat in the back seat hugging her backpack tightly. "Dad. I felt really happy earlier." "Because you made a new friend?" "Yeah. It's been so long since I felt normal, like a kid." James gripped the steering wheel gently. "You've always been a normal kid, Valerie. You just walked through a very big storm. And now I want to live like the sun's out," she whispered. On her first day at the new school, James walked Valerie all the way to the gate, just like he promised. In front, Lily stood waving. "Valerie. Come here." Valerie turned to James. "Dad. I can go now." "Are you sure?" "Yes. You can stay here. I'll go with my friend." She walked away, waving her hand. James watched her until she passed through the school gate. Only then did he finally exhale. Lucas approached from behind. "I heard she's back in school. How's she doing?" James nodded. "Nervous. But lighter." Lucas patted his friend's shoulder. "That girl's strong. Just like her mom." James smiled. "Yeah. Laura would be proud." Lucas hesitated. "I've got news. Police just received another report, another parent accusing Ethan elsewhere. He might be tried again." James frowned. "You mean, he did this to other kids too?" "Looks like it. The mother messaged me after reading the article. She said her daughter was threatened by him. They stayed silent out of fear. But Valerie's case gave them courage." James clenched his fist. "Then we need to uncover everything." Lucas nodded. "But for now, let Valerie live in peace." That afternoon, Valerie came home smiling. "Dad. Lily sits next to me. And our teacher is so nice." "Really?" "Yeah. Her name's Miss Claire. She told us stories and played games with the class. It was so fun." James hugged his daughter. "I'm so happy, sweetie. You know that?" "Me too. Even though I was nervous at first. But then I remembered what you said, today is today, not yesterday." James laughed and tousled her hair. "You have such a good memory." That evening, James received a call from Dr. Rose. "I just wanted to give a quick update. Valerie is recovering very well. I'm recommending we reduce her therapy sessions starting next week. Maybe once every 2 weeks." James exhaled. "Really? I didn't expect it this soon. She has remarkable inner strength. And especially she has a father who never left her side." James looked toward Valerie's room. She was putting stickers on her notebook, humming to herself. "Thank you, Dr. Rose." "No need to thank me. This is Valerie's victory and yours." 3 months later. One morning, James and Valerie sat together in their favorite park. In his hands was a folder with documents for his new job. James had been invited to become the transportation supervisor for San Mateo School. "You're going to work at my school?" Valerie's eyes lit up. "Not as a teacher, okay? I'll just handle the buses." "I love that. If anything happens, I can tell you right away." James smiled. "And I'll always be close." Valerie leaned on his shoulder. Dad, I have a new dream. What dream? I want to be a storyteller. Write children's books. Really? When did you start thinking about that? When I told my story to Ms. Sarah. She said I tell things so vividly. I thought if someone out there feels scared like I once did, maybe they can read my stories and feel a little better. James said nothing. He simply held his daughter close. I'll be the first person to read everything you write. A week later, at San Mateo's school library, Valerie stood in front of a small group of younger students, holding a blue notebook in her hand. Hi. My name is Valerie. Today I'm going to tell you a story called The Invisible Armor. It's about a girl who used to be afraid of everything, until she realized she was stronger than she thought. The children listened intently. Ms. Claire stood behind them, smiling. After the story time, James arrived to pick her up. Valerie ran out, beaming. They loved it, Dad. One of them even asked if I've written part 2 yet. James opened the car door. I knew you'd do great. Valerie climbed in and buckled her seatbelt. Dad, the weather's beautiful today. James drove out of the school parking lot. Yeah. But your smile is the most beautiful part. Valerie tilted her head. Dad, I think, everything's starting over again. And I believe this time, you'll go farther than ever. James and Valerie's story shows us that love, perseverance, and courage can overcome even the darkest nightmares. As parents, our role isn't just to protect our children with fists but with clarity, trust, and patience. Justice may come slowly, but if we never give up, it will come. Most importantly, every child deserves to be heard, to be believed, and to live in a safe environment. No one has the right to steal their childhood.
If you enjoyed this story, we invite you to give it a like and subscribe to our channel. Your support motivates us to keep bringing heartwarming stories almost every day. We are very grateful for your support. See you soon.